Thanks for listening to the AZ Wildcats podcast. I'm Mike Luke, joined by the leader of men, man that calls the shots, Matt Muehlebach. Hello, Matt Muehlebach. How are you?
Good morning, Mike. I'm doing well. How are you doing?
All right, bigger fish. What is Matt? Let me ask you this. So what games do you got this week and next week? And how does Matt juggle that with obviously the full-time job, but then, perusing the country, calling games? What do you got this coming week? Tell us about what Matt Muehlebach's next 10 days are like.
I got, well, it's nice because I'm working during the week and I've got Cal at Oregon this weekend. So I get my first chance to see Jackson Shellstad and fired up about that. Fired up just to see this Oregon team. I think they're 4-0 right now in the pack. And then I've got, I don't know who it is, but I have Colorado next weekend. So it's kind of nice right now. I've got some weekend games so I can work during the week and then get out on the weekend and do a little basketball.
All right. Now, I get this question every time you're coming on. And again, you don't have to get into specifics, but a lot of people are saying we're going to hopefully keep hearing Matt Muehlebach on air in the coming years. This is true, Matt Muehlebach.
I think so. Yeah. I've working on a couple things, and I actually got some nice Fox games, FS1 games coming up, and fired up about that. Yeah, fired up.
What games you got?
In fact, I know I have ASU at U of A, so that's going to be awesome.
Nice.
ASU now all of a sudden 4-0 as well in the pack. And I think I have Washington State at Arizona on Fox. And I actually may have another Mountain West. I have a Mountain West game potentially on Fox. So yeah, it's good. It's good. So I'm going to hopefully pick up some Fox or ESPN or whatever it is next year and keep on trucking.
All right, Matt. Yeah, you're very, very good stuff. All right, let's talk a little bit of Arizona basketball. Let me ask you this. Before I get into one thing that I don't understand about this team, what are your overall impressions? When Matt Muehlebach watches the game, when you were front and center at the game, what do you notice about this team? Just good, bad? What comes to Matt Muehlebach's mind?
What comes to mind? Yeah. I think since the beginning of the season, just their size is when I see other teams, the size of Arizona stands out, and it's a thing. Like Utah has size too, but I think the size combined with the athleticism, I think when I see them live, just how hard they play hard. And, I had a chance, I did the Utah game Saturday, and I think one of the coolest things is hearing a coach not talk about his team, but talk about the other team. Let's hear what Craig Smith says about Arizona or what Tommy Lloyd says about Utah. And it was pretty interesting hearing Craig Smith, because the last 2 years, not that Arizona had a bad defense, I think they've had a good defense the last couple of years, but the thing that jumped out to Craig was their defense. And I think the offense was maybe a little bit, assumed. It's interesting right now in KenPom, they're the only team in the nation that's in the top 10 in both offense and defense. And actually they're in the top 5 in both. They're 5 in offense, 4 in defense. And that balance to me is it's extremely rare. So I noticed that. I think individually what I notice every time I do an Arizona game, man, I notice Caleb Love. I just notice the alpha in him.
Oh, definitely an alpha.
Right? Yep. And I think it's interesting because we talk about a lot of guys, and look, to some degree, every guy that plays in college has a little bit of alpha in them, right? I mean, they're getting to this level. They're getting to the U of A level, not just college level. Is it like there's a big difference between Division I and Division I Arizona level?
If you reach Matt Muehlebach's level, you got a little alpha in you. Let's be honest.
I was going to say that was self-serving for sure.
No, it wasn't. It was true.
But I think all those guys have a little alpha, but it's rare that a real alpha sticks out. And I was thinking about this, like, could you imagine like 8 Kobe Bryants on one team?
Yeah.
And so it's not a bad thing not to be an alpha, right? Like, look, Tubelis was almost the player of the year last year in the Pac-12. He was this far. He was probably a couple good games from being the player of the year. I mean, he had a wonderful season and one of the best of all time in U of A history. And he wasn't an alpha, but it's not a bad thing. It's just who you are, right? And Caleb Love is an alpha, man. That guy, it jumps out to me when I watch him.
All right, now let's talk a little bit more about Caleb Love. You know what I like about Caleb Love? And Arizona didn't have anybody like this last year. When Caleb, it doesn't matter whether Caleb Love, and I think the Kobe Bryant comparison is very apropos. And again, save the comment. We're not saying he's as good as Kobe Bryant. Every now and then when I say something like, oh, you can't compare him to Kobe. No, I'm comparing the mentality. What I love about him, Matt, he could be 8 of 7 from the field, shooting 110%. Or he could be 0 of 7 from the field, and that next shot is going in. For somebody that you want with the ball in the last minute of a game, in the last seconds of a game, you can't put a value on that, Matt.
It's a crazy. It's like, I guess the term comes to mind: irrational confidence.
Yes,
and he has irrational confidence. And look, every once in a while, maybe shoot yourself out of some things, but for the most part, it's a good thing. And I would much rather have that and go down swinging than not.
Yes, absolutely. And the other thing too, and I tell this to some of the the youngsters, man, Matt, I'm getting up there in years when I'm talking about the youngsters, the youngins out here, but that to me is always why. Listen, he wasn't my favorite player off the court, but Miles Simon was one of my favorite players of all time on the court. And I was fortunate enough to be able to talk with Lute Olson one time about this. And he said that he was as fine a leader on the court as he's ever coached. Miles Simon was the one that held everybody responsible. And Miles Simon was the one that wanted the ball at the end of a game. Matt, in this day and age, everybody says they want the ball at the end of the game. Sometimes it's true, sometimes it's not. But you know it when you see it. And Arizona this year, I'm totally cool in a close game come March. If that ball's in Caleb Love's hands, I'm going to live or die with it. And I am more than okay with that.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm 100% with you. It's interesting. You made the observation about Miles, and I think I saw a tweet you put out that said he's probably the number one clutch player in Arizona history. You'd want the ball in his hands. And you're right. I mean, he proved
it. In all
it.
fairness, I didn't see Sean, so I can't go, but right. I go back to Chris Mills. So from Chris Mills on.
Yeah, and exactly. And Sean for sure. But look, Miles, the proof was in the pudding. He made the run in 97. He made, all the shots that led up to the Final Four, and then he made even more of them in the Final Four. And you got to respect everything he did. And he did it, he figured out ways to get buckets, and that's kind of what Caleb does.
Yeah.
I think he's a evolving shooter. I think he gets hot. Obviously, he can get firecracker hot. He can make shots from the logo. But I think for him, he finds ways to score. He's got a nice little midi game. He's, but he gets to the rim and he's athletic and he finds ways to just get buckets and get to the line. And that's the other piece of that.
And you just hit the nail on the head. The mid-range game. Now, listen, you hang out with Steve Kerr. You get to hobnob with those NBA folks from time to time while we hang out here in Tucson. But in the NBA, listen, I know it's a 3-point and dunk league. I get all that. But the really great ones are still able to make shots from mid-range. You look at Kevin Durant. You look at, heck, even Steph Curry, although Steph Curry's doing you a favor by shooting from mid-range as opposed to 3. Caleb Love has kind of that lost art there, Matt Muehlebach, in being able to pull up from 16 feet.
He does, yeah. And he's not afraid to do it. He's got the nice little floater, the runner. He's kind of got it all. And, I think, you look last year, I think a good example is the Princeton game, why you're happy to have Caleb this year. And because, if the jumper's not working, your guards have to get to the rim. They have to get to the mid-range. The guards just weren't able to do that last year. They struggled in that area. And I think Caleb's going to be able to do that. I'll tell you, Tommy made a really interesting comment to me that I'll kind of transition to like a team concept was, and this is where I think the guards are going to be really good this year in those pressure games. He said, I want my team to get comfortable, in tight situations, in tight games. And it was an interesting comment because, you want to, and he said, by the way, he said it after they won by 47 on Thursday. And so you want to blow teams out. You want to have all those, you want to win every game, and if you can, blow them out. But I love the idea of being comfortable in a close situation. It reminds me of it's like, I mean, this is not the exact, obviously, but it's like Navy SEALs, right? You train to get yourself to like the highest denominator,
right?
And you're training to be uncomfortable, and you're training to be in situations. You get dropped out of a helicopter in the middle of the night in freezing cold water.
My old
That's
profession.
That's right. That's what he wants with this team. That's why he ran the gauntlet. He called it the gauntlet of the non-con. That's why he put him through all those games, and that's why the losses to some degree can be good. But think about how many tight situations they were in FAU.
Right.
And back to Caleb, I think he even said he shot that long distance three, and he said maybe I should have gotten a better look, maybe gotten into the lane, maybe taken it to the basket. I think he's going to learn from that. And so at times the three's there, the long one's there. At times maybe you get in the lane. So I love what they're doing right now. I mean, look, we say this phrase a lot, but man, they check a ton of boxes right now. They check a lot of them.
My only concern with this team is sometimes, and I'm going to push back a little bit, it seems like some games they just go through the motions. I look at the Stanford game, I look at the Purdue game. Stop giving white guys open 3-pointers.
Well, you can say that. I can't say that, but
I did say it. Yes, you don't. Matt is talking on his own right here. I am talking on my own. Matt Muehlebach, you say your own thing.
I look. I think what he said, what Tommy said after they had the success, right? You win at Duke, you win against Michigan State. They beat Wisconsin by 32 or whatever it was. I think it's the natural human inclination, right, to get a little soft on that and feel like, hey, we're pretty good, and not soft in terms of like the toughness piece, but just like, hey, we think we're good. We're going to roll teams. Look at what we've done. And Tommy said this also going into Saturday at the shoot around. He said, we just got to find our edge. We got to keep finding our edge. And I think that's why I've never seen a coach at a press conference give so little information about the game that just occurred. When he finishes the game, he'll say like one sentence. He's like, okay, then we got so-and-so Saturday, or so-and-so Friday, whatever. I mean, he did it after the Duke game. They had just beat Duke on the road, second game of the year. I think he made one comment and said, hey, we got a big game next week against Southern.
Right.
And, most coaches are going to sort of, enjoy that sort of success. And the players do, like I would, and we did. I remember as a player, and I that's why I love the Last Dance so much. Is Michael Jordan's
How many times
ability.
have you watched The Last Dance?
I've watched it honestly probably 10 times.
Nice.
I mean, I
love
watching
in it.
Yeah, maybe a couple. But I think Michael's ability to, create edges and create, false edges and everything he created to like keep that edge, like to me was the greatest gift that he ever had.
Right. All right. Now, let's talk about Kylan Boswell. Kylan Boswell, to me, is the key of this team. I know what I'm going to get from Caleb Love. Good or bad, I know what I'm going to get. I still feel pretty comfortable about that with Keshad. I need Kylan Boswell to play at an all-conference level. He's good enough to do it. Again, I don't need him to be Mike Bibby, but I need him game in and game out. We've seen the passes. We've seen how he can score. There's games when you're like, oh, yeah, that was the top 15 to 20 player in college or high school basketball. All I need from him, Matt, is an all-conference type, and I think everything falls into play. To me, he is the key to the team.
It's a good point. I mean, he's got the ball in his hand more than anybody. His shot selection is important. Making threes is important. They don't, it's interesting. Arizona doesn't shoot a lot of threes, but they're number 15 in the country in percentage. Right. So they shoot it really well when they do take them. But you're right. I think his ability to kind of distribute. Well, hey, look, it's the age-old question of a point guard, especially now when you have more scoring point guards than you did in the past. And, hey, when do I take my shot? When do I score? And all these guys, these guys are under a lot of pressure these days. They're all trying to make the NBA. A guy like Kylan Boswell, how can you not notice after a couple of really good games, you play at Duke, all those games I mentioned, you move up the draft board. And, I mean, I don't care if you're not looking at it. Someone's going to tell you about it.
Oh, I would be looking at it. Let's be honest here. We got to give these kids some respect on this. Anybody that says, I don't care about getting to the NBA, you're a liar.
Right. They're all so to me, like in this day and age, when you look at top 10 teams, top 15 teams, I think the hardest thing to balance is how do you balance like, yeah, you want your individual success. You want to be in the NBA, but how do you balance that with the team? And again, going back to Tommy, he does such a great job, like constantly, playing as a team, taking the right shots. They don't always do it. And I mean, I can't even imagine what it would have been like when I was playing because we didn't have any of that. We didn't
Right.
have the constant scrutiny. We didn't have the website saying where you were going to be drafted and that kind of thing. And so it's a lot of pressure, but I agree with you. And I thought Kylan specifically made a huge response last Thursday and Saturday against Colorado and Utah in that he struggled for a couple of games. I mean,
Right.
he didn't look like himself. I wonder if he was thinking about some stuff. Who knows? But I thought he got back in, the lab, and he works as hard as anybody, in Richard Jefferson and shooting and doing his thing. And I thought that's what he did and kind of got focused and back to what he normally does.
Is Kylan Boswell a pro?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
He is.
All right. Now let's talk about a little bit about Pelle Larsson.
Yes.
By the way, here's what I don't understand. First of all, my bad, Pelle. I always have to say this. I was an idiot. I didn't think Pelle Larsson was good. My only question with you is this, Matt Muehlebach. Why can't we get the same effort out of Pelle every single game? He's 23 years old. He's good. He's very good. He's a really good athlete. He's not a stiff by any means. Why can't he, to me, should always be the guy that maybe not quite Matt Muehlebach assist numbers, but he always should be able to get, in my opinion, 13 points, 4 or 5 rebounds, 3 or 4 assists, just off the way that he can play his hustle, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Well, I mean, he's doing that, right? I mean, isn't he's around, what is he, 13,
True.
3,
True.
and 5 or something? But you're right. You get 13 one game, you get 22 in one game, you get 6 maybe from anybody. But I think he's I mean, he defers sometimes. I mean, I think that's why his numbers. So if he's in a game where the ball doesn't find him, or the shots don't find him like they do sometimes, his numbers will be down because he's not going to. I will say this: the one thing I love about what he's doing this year, he's not forcing it.
Right.
He's taking super efficient shots. He looks super comfortable with what he's doing. I felt like the last 2 years, especially last year, I felt like he really was trying to be something maybe that he wasn't.
I think that's fair. I think that's exactly what it was.
And this year, to me, he's letting everything just come to him.
All right. Now, don't want to get you into trouble because, again, you work for the Pac. You do Pac-12 network games, but I do want to say this. Oregon is the only team in the Pac-12 that I worry about when it comes to Arizona. I don't worry. SC to me is odd because I've always stuck up for Andy Enfield. I think he gets a bum rap, but they're not good. UCLA is totally in the dumpster. ASU, shout out Kyle Dodd. By the way, Kyle Dodd is doing commercials for like a credit union or something.
Is he?
Yeah, good for Kyle Dodd. He sent me that
post NIL money.
Oh, yeah, dude, that's what he does, man. Seriously. Like when you're Kyle Dodd, man, when you're listen, when you combine for 63 points with Eddie House, and it doesn't matter who scored the 61.
That's right.
That's going to be something. Right. But I just look around the conference, Matt, and Oregon's the only team I look at, and I'm like, that's the only team that I think when they're fully healthy, when they get in Folly Dante and Biddle back, that can look Arizona from a talent coaching perspective face to face. That's the only team I think.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, I think I will say this. I think it's going to be interesting to see Arizona play at Utah and at Colorado. Because number one, they'll play better at home. You're a big
Craig Smith fan, by the way. Very good.
He's really good, isn't he? I mean, he's doing a great job there. And I know they played okay Saturday. I thought Arizona just played really well. They also had Keba Keita, who was hurt. He got hurt early on in the game.
Your guy, DK Metcalf.
What's that?
Your guy, DK Metcalf.
You gave me the comp, and I was going to compare him to DK, and then he got hurt. I never had a chance to.
I was watching that. Show you how much I like Matt Muehlebach. I generally go to the games, but if Matt Muehlebach is on the call, I am staying right here in the back of the Ace studios. Go ahead, Matt Muehlebach.
All right, I need a, and then I'm going to ask you. I need a comp for you, from you, and that is Keshad Johnson, a guy. And I'm gonna ask you the question: is Keshad a pro? Like, and that's what I'm trying to come up with is the pro for him, the pro comp for Keshad.
You know what's interesting about him is if he can get the 3 down to where he's a passable NBA because people don't realize, well, people do realize, but the difference between the college three and the NBA three is still, it's fairly immense.
Yeah.
In an
Yeah.
old school day, I would have compared him to a Udonis Haslem type, a long kind of rangy, athletic junkyard dog type. Remember Jerome Williams from Georgetown?
Yeah. Yeah.
Somebody like that. But Keshad's an interesting guy. I don't think that he's ever a rotation player because I just don't think that he has the offense. And I'm going to have to think about this one for a second. A lot of people say, well, Draymond Green, but the problem with Draymond's so cerebral. Draymond, Keshad, with all due respect, doesn't have the ability to see, Steph Curry 13 screens before and throwing it in that direction. I got to think on that, but I do think, and I do believe that he's going to be on an NBA roster. I do too. I don't believe he's a rotation player, though. I believe that he's a guy. There's nothing wrong with this. I believe that he's going to be somebody that's going to be like a 10th or 11th guy, brings maximum effort. He's a super good athlete. And what's fascinating to me about him, Matt, is that he's quick enough that he can switch out on a 2 or a 4, which gives him the ability. In the NBA, you kind of are who you guard unless you're, so he's going to have a chance. And honestly, I think the best recruiting tool that Tommy Lloyd has, all amongst many good recruiting tools, is to say, look at what Keshad was at with, at San Diego State, and look how he was able to work on his game. I'm going to think about that one though, Matt. That's a great. Hey, I got one for you here. Not quite as tall, but you watch a lot of Warriors basketball. Kevon Looney, a little. He's not big. He's not as thick as Kevon Looney's a thick dude.
He's a thick dude. He's super long and a little, as you said, a little taller, I think.
Yeah.
Crazy thing, Kevon Looney, like when he was a freshman, had offensive weapons, and he did some things off the dribble he never does in the NBA. I think he just knows, like, why am I going to do that if I got Steph behind me? But that's an interesting comp. But I'm with you. I think he's a guy that can certainly stick, and I think partly because of his attitude, he's such a good kid.
Right.
I think him and Pella are the heart and soul of that U of A team.
I was going to say Keshad Johnson is not somebody that I would want to get into I would not want to offend Keshad Johnson.
He grew up really close to where I went to high school in Oakland. But he's an awesome kid.
Yeah.
One of the best guys to talk to on the team.
Kentucky, now listen, Kentucky's playing well, but when Kentucky's at their best, they have players like Keshad Johnson. They have that DeAndre Liggins, that Darius Miller type, where you don't need to score, you don't need to have the ball, and their loss, our gain, Matt Muehlebach. By the way, Matt Muehlebach, when was the last time you went to Circle K? I'm sure you went to Circle K sometime in the past.
I told you I get my donuts at Circle K. All
right, that's what we like to hear. Listen, when you're a lawyer, your Matt Muehlebach, life comes easy to you. He makes it even easier for himself. Join. All right. Here's the deal with Circle K. All kinds of good stuff. Join your inner circle for free by downloading the Circle K app today. Terms and conditions apply at participating locations. Visit CircleK.com for details. Who knows? Maybe you'll run into a local celebrity like Matt Muehlebach at Circle K. You never really know.
If Dodd is getting post NIL money, where's my post NIL money?
We gotta. You know what? I'm gonna message them after the show and say, listen, Dodd, if you're getting this, why isn't Muehlebach getting this as well? You should confront him at the Pac-12 tournament, though, and say, listen, Kyle Dodd, I want that. Also, Matt Muehlebach, have you ever been to Illegal Pete's?
Yes, on University.
Oh, it's a very good place. All the cool, like I said, I was never one of the cool kids, so I was never allowed in Illegal Pete's, but now that I'm over 21, they can't stop me from joining at Illegal Pete's. Ring in the new year with Illegal Pete's weekly deals. Kick the Monday blues with $3 margaritas all day long, or ease your way back into the week with $2 tacos every Tuesday. Do you work in healthcare or education? Take your team to lunch at Illegal Pete's every Tuesday and enjoy buy one, get one free entrees. Maybe it's a time for me to get into healthcare and education. And don't forget to unwind after a long day at their happy hour, 3 p.m. to 8 p.m. Illegal Pete's, your go-to spot for burritos, buddies, and beer, and possibly Matt Muehlebach. All right, now, let's talk a little bit Big 12 basketball here. By the way, Jacob Franklin, this is going to be a show clip, so I'm going to put it 24. Matt, Arizona, I cannot wait for the Big 12. And again, I know you got to say what you got to say here, but man, that's going to be a gauntlet next year. I mean, Just look at Houston. Houston is the number 2
Yeah,
ranked team in the country. They go into Iowa State and lose, and nobody's really shocked by it because of just how tough that is. I mean, you go from
right.
Houston to Kansas, and forget, other schools like a Kansas State, like we said, an Iowa State. This is going to
Yeah,
be something where Arizona's had bye weeks in the past where you played some teams that just aren't that good. That's about to change in a big way.
it is. And I had this conversation. I did a Colorado game a few weeks ago with Tad Boyle, and Tad was played at Kansas,
Mhm.
and then when he coached at Colorado, I think the first year he coached there, they were in the Big 12 before they joined the Pac-12. And I mean, I was asking him about not just, and I think you're pointing out something, just how good the teams are, right? They're just deep. They're a deep conference. They're outstanding at the top. Kansas, Baylor, Houston, but they're just deep too. You keep going throughout the conference. Everybody can play. They play physical. But the thing Tad told me, he's like, people have no idea how hard it is to play at every one of those venues. And he's like, look, when Oregon's going, when Oregon State's going, yeah, those are all tough venues to play. But he's like, these teams, they sell out when they're not going. They sell out when they don't have a good team. And he goes, you go into every one of them, and it's hard to play. And he mentioned specifically Ames, Iowa. This is the first one he mentioned. He's like, you go into Ames, Iowa, you don't even think about them. And look what happened the other day.
And I think what Arizona fans got to realize is that just because you have maybe 6 losses in the Big 12 doesn't mean that that is necessarily a bad thing when you're playing, when you're playing 8 top 25 teams every other week. Well, every other week. I mean, you're not playing 4 games a week, but it's really going to toughen you up. Also, it's something I was thinking about yesterday is the most, and we didn't even mention Baylor, who won a national title like 3 years ago. What have they done? But watching what Kansas has been able to do for the last almost 2 decades with Bill Self, I believe is the most impressive streak in all of sports. Because now, granted, I know that it stopped, but still being able to run that gauntlet for 2 straight decades, and like you said, like Tad Boyle said, you're going into tough environments. Man, that's impressive, Matt.
So what have they won? 20 in a row?
It was,
Is
I
that
think
what it is?
it ended up at 19 or
Is it
something.
19?
Something like that, yeah.
That's insane. I mean,
Yeah.
it's insane. And their coach, man, that KU coach is just he is just unbelievably consistent, and that's what the best coaches are. They have everyone accountable. To your point earlier, talking about just being, tough all the time and being on edge, and he's really good at that. He's good at everything.
You know what?
They get good players. And by the way, a lot of their players have not been. They don't always have the best players.
For
They
sure.
don't always have McDonald's All-Americans. I mean, they do a lot, but they've taken some guys that are a lot of like mid guys, and they make them really good.
You know who he reminds me a lot of, and one of the best games I've ever seen was Arizona, Illinois with Bill Self and I almost said Lute Walton. Lute Olson in the Elite Eight. He reminds me a lot of Lute. I think a lot of people say, oh, Mike Bibby, and Mike Bibby was his big time prospect. Yes. But let's be honest here. A lot of the guys that you built this program on, your Steve Kerrs, your Damon Stoudemire's, your Miles Simons, your Reggie Geary's, guys that weren't quite good enough for CLA, Gilbert Arenas, players like that. His ability to be able to find players, I think, is very similar to Lute in that regard. And the roster construction is also very impressive.
It's super impressive. And like that list goes on forever, right? Judd Bushler and Channing Frye didn't come out as a
Matt Muehlebach because you were a top 30 recruit. Get out of here, Matt Muehlebach.
I underachieved. I was a bust.
Oh, no, that's not true. John Schuster and I were both having some spirits one time with somebody who would definitely know. And he said if Matt Muehlebach didn't have injuries, he would have played in the NBA. Matt Muehlebach, you do not get off off of that one. Go ahead.
I think it's their ability. I think that's a super good comp of him and Lute. I mean, I think they're super similar. Again, just consistent on how they coach, how they develop. They get good kids, and when you're not like if you don't fall in line, you're gone. And you don't play. So, and then I think a pretty amazing ability to have the guy like a Judd Bushler, but then also have a guy that's a McDonald's All-American, right? Mm-hmm. And Bill Self's done that with guys like Wiggins and other number one picks.
I almost said Frank Lucas from American Gangster of Denzel Washington. Frank Mason, Devontae Graham.
Yes.
These are National Player of the Year types, and one's committed to what, like George Mason, and the other one's committed to Appalachian State.
I know, and it's crazy. It's crazy evaluation too, like really understanding what those guys can do for the program. So.
All right. Now, that was very good work. By the way, I was not referencing the Arizona meltdown against Illinois in 2005. I was mentioning the game in 2001 before Arizona went on to play Michigan State. Let's get it right. Kilroy, by the way, likes Bob Dobbs a great deal. He is the man. Salute emoji, tip of the cap. All right. Now,
I think I've seen him there.
Yeah, I'm sure. I think, yeah, I'm probably. Well, listen, Matt, if you go there, you're going to see him there. He and Brian Peabody are the state.
I've definitely seen Peabody there. I've definitely seen him there.
By the way, was that not one of the most amazing dunks ever?
Oh, incredible. The and one?
Yeah.
How tall was that guy?
5'6".
5'6".
Yeah, we need to get him here at the U of A somehow, some way. Him and Conrad Martinez.
Have you shown that video on your podcast?
Oh, I have. Hey, can you pull this up, Jacob Franklin? Yeah, watch this. Matt, watch the technological.
Oh, we're going to get it. Oh, this is nice.
Watch the technological capabilities we have. This is very impressive. Jacob Franklin, let me know when you have the video of the kid dunking. All right. Well, I will talk.
And he took the contact and stood up. I thought he was going to go down.
One more time. That was violent.
That was powerful.
Yes.
Mike Luke, I got a question for you.
What's that?
You ever dunk? You ever dunk in your you ever get any?
I could get the closest I ever got was I could get my wrist well above the rim.
You could, okay.
Yeah, but that was about the closest I could get.
That was the closest.
Golf ball, my friend. If we played
basketball, what's your handicap?
Oh man, my handicap last time. That's a great question. So I was playing at 49er.
Okay.
And I shot
I like 49er.
Yeah, I was going to say I was playing it before my dad ran over my ankle with a golf cart. I shot a 89. No,
Okay.
Excuse me, 94. Excuse me. I was getting that with my best game. So 94. So somewhere in that 18 to 20 range generally.
All right, we got to get out there.
I am Matt Muehlebach. Well, you strike me as being naturally very good at golf.
I got good at golf actually in law school. So what I didn't understand was like my schedule during undergrad with hoops and school was
living at Steve Kerr's house, right?
Yeah, I was living in his guest house over on 3rd Street, and we had class in the morning. Obviously had to study, especially before finals, but I had a lot of free time, so we actually golfed a lot, and I got decent during law school. I got down to probably like a 7 or 8, but I'm not that now. But I'm probably 11 or 12, solid 11 or 12.
I get in free at 49ers, so we should.
Let's do it.
Yeah, we should play it. I'm 100% in on this. Oh, Dennis Walsh, great point. Great Peabody story. This is true. I was at this game. I think you and I have talked about it. Were you at this game, Matt Muehlebach?
Which one?
The South Point Shadow Mountain game. Baby.
Yes, I was at that. The John Ash game.
The John Ash game, yes. I have never seen. First of all, I cut in line. I was in middle school at the time, and there was a line going all the way down mountain. It was insane.
Yeah.
It was insane. So what I did is I just pretended to be, a little out of it, or not even pretending. I was just out of it, and essentially just kind of made my way to the front. It was
yourself.
Yeah, because my dad was there, but my dad couldn't get in.
Oh, he couldn't get in.
Didn't feel that it was morally responsible to do what I was doing. I didn't care. But man, for a Tucson high school basketball game, that was absolutely insane.
It was insane. That was I actually, believe it or not, I just went to the Catalina Foothill South Point game last night.
Yeah. Really?
And I've seen probably 7, 8 high school games in Tucson, and that was the all-timer. That was definitely something that was never happen again. It
was so weird too, because like as a middle schooler, I was expecting to see because you got to remember, this was like Flash and Dash, Allen Iverson, Stephon Marbury, Baron Davis. You're expecting to go and see dudes dunk and whatnot. And you came out of there watching John Stockton. It was awesome.
That's such a great comp, that he was more like John Stockton. He was like cerebral, smart, made all the right decisions, didn't do anything flashy. I was the same way. I was like, I think he had 30 something, but I didn't really feel like he did much.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it just, but that's also, but I've also, and the GOAT Brian Jeffries has told me this multiple times, and I don't think I don't think I'm telling anybody anything that he would be. He's always told me that Elliott was the best player he ever saw, but he said if I was going to pick one player, I'm picking Mike Bibby because nobody could control a game like Mike Bibby. That always resonates because the GOAT, I mean, you know the GOAT very well. He's not one for hyperbole. He's very,
not.
So I thought that was, I've always
Right.
thought that was a very interesting remark. And he said that to me multiple times before. So I will quote the GOAT on that one.
Hey, you won a national title as a freshman if you're Mike Bibby, so that's
all right. We got about
I see Mike Bibby all the time now at volleyball tournaments.
Really?
Yeah. His daughter's a volleyball player. I see him. My daughters haven't played his daughter, but I see him all the time. He's walking around and he's ripped. Huge.
Right. Did you see when he and I think it was like Channing Frye, Mike Bibby, and all of them, Miles Simon, and I think it was Richard Jefferson when they were all out at midcourt and they were roasting
Red blue.
Yeah, the red blue.
He was.
That was Arizona basketball in a nutshell. How cool that was from the Lute era on. Oh, by the way, this is a great story. Dennis Walsh says, "My dumb friend yelled at Jason Terry, 'Look who you'll be backing up for the next 3 years.'" Terry. Oh well, Terry had one. Let's see. I do remember Devin Eason at Rincon. He was Emerson Whitley year 1994, my friends. All right. Want to talk a little bit about the bench for Arizona because I think that's something that Schuster keeps harping on, that the bench is going to be huge. What does that guy know? But first, let's see here. What should we get to? BetMGM. Now, you might say to yourself, hold on, let me find this. Jacob Franklin sent this to me because my screen froze up. Matt, I'm a spaz half the time. All right, here's the deal. BetMGM. Sign up for BetMGM. Use bonus code PHNX. Place your first BetMGM sportsbook wager through BetMGM mobile, a sportsbook mobile app of at least $5. You will receive $158 instantly in additional winnings, regardless of your the game's outcome. Check out the show notes for details. Do you like the Chiefs? Are you backing the Chiefs, Matt Muehlebach?
Chiefs are, I don't know. They're not who they've been, but I think Miami's pretty hurt. So I think I am going to back the Chiefs. It's also going to be 0 degrees back there. I just talked to my parents this morning. They're in KC, and they're not leaving the house. Nobody's leaving the house unless you have to.
All right, back the C, but let's also hear the disclaimer from Shane Diefenbach.
Problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Colorado, D.C., Illinois, Indiana, Kansas, Louisiana, Maryland, Mississippi, New Jersey, Nevada, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, Wyoming. Call 877-8-HOPENY or text HOPENY 467-369 New York. Call 1-800-327-5050 Massachusetts. 21 plus to wager. Please gamble responsibly. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP Arizona. 1-800-BETS-OFF Iowa. 1-800-270-7117 for confidential help Michigan. 1-800-981-0023 Puerto Rico in partnership with Kansas Crossing Casino and Hotel. Visit BetMGM.com for terms and conditions. U.S. promotional offers not available in D.C., New York, or Ontario.
All right, Matt, we're going to talk the bench here for a second, but first, we got to give a shout out to Adama Ball. Not Amada Ball, Adama Ball. I've done that, but Adama Ball have you seen what he's been doing? You sent me the draft chart. That's right.
There's a draft website that has him top 20 in the draft, a first round top 20 pick. What the heck is going on here?
I don't think that that's probably right, but I also will say that I'm generally wrong on all my evals. I thought that there was something there with him, though. It felt like he had a level. I'm happy to see him doing well at Santa Clara.
Yeah, sometimes it just doesn't, fit, right? The fit of the coach or the team or the style or just even the years that you're there, and then you get better. And that's why. Look, I mean, I know a lot of people are killing this transfer portal stuff, but I like it. I mean, it gives players some control. It gives players the ability to say, I got to get out of a bad situation. Look, does it also encourage players maybe to leave earlier than they should and maybe hurt themselves? You just mentioned Jason Terry. I mean, Jason Terry probably would have left,
right.
And he still probably would have been a pretty damn good player.
Right.
But at the same time, those are decisions they got to kind of figure out, and they're going to see some bad stories and some good stories. And Ball's a good story. He was always a good kid. I mean, you don't just come into a game in the Pac-12 tournament finals and hit 2 3-pointers within a minute,
right,
and have never played all season and just not be good. You know, like he had talent, and it just didn't fit. So
You know what's funny about it? Herb Sendek now. Let's just play. Let's say that Adama Ball is another first round pick. I don't believe him to be one, but we have 3 straight first round picks. Jalen Williams, Cody Williams' brother. The
Pajimski.
yeah. I was going to let you pronounce it, and then
Yeah,
Adama Ball going in there. That'd be interesting. Let's talk
that'd
about
be
Arizona.
insane.
Let's talk about Arizona's bench. You always talk about it. It's a very good point. Who are the pros on the team? The surefire pros. KJ Lewis is definitely the pro on this team. This is the player that, again, I can speculate on this. You probably can't. I think he's probably gone after next year. But this is what a starting NBA shooting guard looks like physically, athletically. And I know he can't shoot right now, but it's not like he's got that Shakur shot where there's just no chance that it's ever going to be good. He's going to be a good shooter. This time next year, I think we're going to see him on lottery boards, Matt Muehlebach.
Yeah, you maybe have him a year ahead of what I have him. I mean, I have him like 3 years. But no, I'm with you. I think he's an NBA player. I mean, his defense, his effort, his energy, his just athleticism is next level. The other thing, I don't have it in front of me. I wish I had it in front of me. His assist to turnover ratio for a guy that comes off the bench,
right,
and has never played college basketball. I want to say it's like 31 assists and like 5 turnovers or something. It's something crazy.
Every now and then, every now and then, Sheer makes a good point. By the way, I heard you guys talking bad about me behind my back.
I did see your boy Sheer at the game.
Yeah, listen. Well, I know where you work, and when I'm at F45.
Are you doing NIL for F45? We do the NIL.
No, I want to get my NIL Del Taco deal, which
yes.
I believe that I should. But
yes,
KJ Lewis is always around the ball. He has a knack for the ball. He has an understanding of basketball. And to me, I don't want to beat up on the recruiting eval people too much, but come on. There's not 100 better prospects in that high school class than KJ Lewis. I don't need to watch any college basketball to tell you this.
Yeah, I don't know how he fell down, and maybe it's, I don't know, maybe it's because he's, like you said, he's not there yet shooting, but he will be. His shot is fine. It's just a matter of reps and confidence and that sort of thing. And he's a good kid, so he'll develop it.
You know his father, if I'm not mistaken.
I know his dad. Great guy, awesome guy. Lives in Tucson. I think he played football at UTEP.
Okay.
But really good guy, and saw him before the game. Last Thursday, and but Mike, they got a good bench all the way around.
Yeah.
I mean, he wasn't a McDonald's All-American, but Jaden Bradley was. And you got a McDonald's All-American coming off the bench as your 7th man, 6th man.
With Jaden, I wish, and again, Tommy Gunn knows what he's doing, but I wish there was a way to play Jaden a little bit more, because when Jaden comes into the game, things change. Defensively, he's always, what it reminds me a little bit of, and he's not as good, so people miss me with this, but he reminds me a little bit of like when Jason Terry would come into the game, that things kind of change. He's a lot different. He plays a lot different than the other point guard, who's obviously very good. But man, I love Jaden Bradley when he's out there.
Yeah, he just, he's not a 3-point shooter. He's 5 of 8, by the way, on the season from 3. I think he should take more of them.
More.
But how about when all those 3 guys come in, the game totally changes. So you bring in KJ, you bring in Jaden, both awesome on defense. Not that the starters aren't good, but the bench is amazing. Then you go 7-2 at center, who's a guy that's getting better and better all the time. And I mean, that's what they really struggled with last year, I thought, was the bench. It didn't feel right. The game didn't change. They had good players coming off at times, but it is a game-changing bench right now.
I can't wait to see Mo Krivas next year with a whole year in the system, being able to, because again, like he's legitimately, he's not 6'11", he's not like legitimately like 7'2", and Matt, he can play. Right now, there are times when you can tell he's a little bit out of his element, but I think those are things that are correctable. I think he's going to be a monster next season. I really do.
I do too. Yeah, monster. He's gonna hurt some teams. I mean, they just bounce off him. The thing he struggled with is just catching and all the guys, swiping at the ball.
Right.
And I thought this was interesting. He said something that even though he played in Europe and played, some older guys, the physicality isn't the same as it is here. and he struggled early on catching and finishing just among traffic. And, when he catches or if he gets an offensive board or in those situations where there's traffic around him, that's where he struggled. He was kind of trying to get his moves. Guys were swiping the ball. And the Colorado game was the first game that I saw that he kind of had corrected that. He'd kind of figured it out. And I thought that was his best game of the year by far. And, once he kind of does that more consistently, again, having a guy like that come off the bench is just, there's not many guys in the whole country like that.
All right, when you have connections like Matt Muehlebach, you can go hang out with the Warriors, you can go call games. Not everybody's got those connections, but Game Time is going to make you feel as close to Matt Muehlebach as possible. Snag the tickets without the stress with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code PHNX for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code PHNX. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. All right, Matt Muehlebach, before we sign off, give people your broadcasting schedule because we need to know when Matt Muehlebach is on. Even if it's games we don't care about, Matt Muehlebach brings it.
Yeah, I got what do I got? Cal at Oregon this weekend. So
Can you tell Dana Altman my joke?
What's your joke?
All right. So again, people that move out of Crete, Nebraska, like Dana Altman. What do you call
where
them?
your family's from, right?
Yep, they're all from there. Yes.
Okay. From Crete. From Crete, the city Crete, and that's where Dana's from.
Crete, Nebraska. He was born in Crete, Nebraska. Yes.
Okay.
You ask him, you say, what do you call somebody that moves out of Crete, Nebraska? An excretion. Okay. You get it? It's good. It's funny. It's funny. You should tell him.
I will tell him that. I will tell him that Saturday. I'll report back on my next pod. Hopefully I'll be invited back. And like I said, hey, I'm looking forward to that ASU U of A game in Tucson. I got that game on FS1. I've got, like I said, I think I got Washington State at Arizona, and fired up for that. I got Cal at Arizona, and off the top of my head, I can't think of anything else right now. But yeah, it's going to be fun.
All right. He is the great Matt Muehlebach, leader of men to Matt Muehlebach. I am merely Mike Luke. You have been, thanks everybody. Your comments make the show. Matt, you're a good person. I don't care what anybody says about you.
You're awesome, Mike. Let's golf and have a couple beers.
Golf and have a couple beers on the course.
I like it.
All right. You've been listening to the AZ Wildcats podcast.